Welcome to another Real Estate Talk Show, featuring highlights of the best interviews from our national real estate radio show. Here's another property expert.
Well, here's a really interesting situation. I've got to tell you, I've never heard of this, but I'm told on good authority, and best authority is Rob Balanda from MBA Lawyers, who tells me that this is an occurrence that could be happening from time to time. Let me tell you what it is. Rob received a call from a client who'd had their property on the market for quite some time. They called to ask his comments about an offer they'd received from a buyer. Basically what it was, hey, we'll give you 80% of the asking price. We'll pay you full price. We'll do it now, and the rest to come a little bit later. And they asked Rob, is that normal? Is that okay? He joins me. G'day, Rob.
G'day, Kevin.
Now, you're telling me that this is happening more and more, I guess, as the market tightens. Is it that you think that buyers are sensing that maybe sellers are a bit more desperate?
Yes, and agents too, looking for creative ways to put the deal together. When you said, I'll give you the other 20% a bit later, they're talking 2 or 3 years later. And their question for me usually is this a good idea, Rob? Should I do this? Well, the answer to that question is I need some more information, and so do you, so I can give you some advice, and you can make a commercial decision about whether to do it. For example, if the 80% is the real current market value today, then the 20% is a bonus, isn't it? So you might be happy to wait the other 2 or 3 years to get the rest. But if the real value is the 100%, the 80 and the 20%, then that's a whole different issue. Then you're waiting 2 or 3 years for 1/5 of your money. So then you need to look at getting real and proper security for the other 20%. And that raises the issue: how much money is the buyer borrowing? Usually I find they're borrowing the 80%. That's where that's coming from. So that assumes then that another lender is getting a first mortgage, and that assumes then that they should be able to give you a second mortgage. So as an owner, if you put this proposal, you need to ask, well, what's my security for my 20%? Will you give me a second mortgage? And if they say yes, then you need to know, well, what is the amount of the first mortgage, and will the first lender sign a document called a deed of priority, which limits, in the case of a default by this buyer down the track, if they default in their payments and the first lender steps in, this deed of priority says they limit the amount they can claim to the 80%. It's only if you, as the seller, get something like that, a deed of priority, that your second mortgage has any real value. It could have no value at all. The other thing, they're particularly prepared to do it, consider it anyway, if the 80% is the real value and the 20% is a bonus. It's a lot different issue if the 20% is really part of the value. You need also to be asking yourself, if the buyer is a company, which often they are, will the directors of that company be offering personal guarantees? So that if you have to enforce that mortgage in 2 or 3 years' time and sell them up, you can get out the directors of the company.
The two scenarios you gave there, you said if 80% is what it's really worth and the other 20% is a bonus.
Yes.
My experience is that that's not likely to be the case, because in most cases, most houses, if they're overpriced by about 10%. So to be 20% overpriced means you're probably not going to be getting any activity. Or my guess is that the property is probably worth the 100%. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, what I'm seeing... Yeah, the ones that I see come off, they're 100%. It's the 100%.
Yeah. So they're worth the at least close to the asking price. And if you're selling it for 80% secured today, then you're probably underselling it by 20%. Admittedly, you get your other 20% maybe further down the track. What about? This is a very simple question now, Rob. But okay, so at 20%, I sell it for 80% of its asking price, and I give you the keys. Is there a risk that I'm never going to see my other 20%?
Oh, very much so. And that's what you've got to protect yourself against. That's why you need to be taking legal advice to get proper security for the 20%.
And if I put all that in place, like what you said, if I put all that in place, there's a fairly good chance I'll get my other 20%, 3 years' time?
Still a risk. Still a risky thing to do, because all you've got at the end of the day, you're like a lender. You're the second-tier lender as well, the second cab off the rank. Second mortgages aren't generally good security for that reason. That is, you're the second cab off the rank.
Yeah, well, once again...
You have to think long and hard whether you do it, but people are lured by the prospect of getting 80% of the money now. That's why they're thinking about it.
Yeah, well... Times are tough. You've got to be creative, but you've also got to be careful, as Rob says. And we always say, if there's anything happening to you like that, make sure you talk to your solicitor. Couldn't get a better one, of course, than my good friend Rob Balanda. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Kevin.
Rob Balanda from MBA Lawyers.